How did you get involved with That Evening Sun? Because I'm always interested in when such fine actors take a chance on a young, young filmmaker.
Somebody comes along with a piece of good material like this and a wonderful character, challenging and interesting human being, what are you going to do? Turn it down because there's not much money in it? I mean, do you want to take a insignificant role in some digitalized picture with people jumping out of airplanes with machine guns and landing on their feet? I mean, why? And to be able to be given an opportunity to do something, especially with Sean, I mean, he gave me an opportunity that Hollywood hadn't given me for many, many years. To play somebody like me, not some guy in a, straitjacket suit in a firm somewhere or a lawyer, whatever. I mean, I'm not that, I don't know those people. I don't know them. I have no interest in knowing them in particular, unless somebody comes up with a really interesting story. But this, I mean, I didn't have to act. I was just, I just played myself. I really liked it. And I could recognize that it wasn't written by some guys in a back room in Hollywood who never went south of the Mason-Dixon line. They really understood. Scott Teems, who wrote it, really understands the Southern culture.
Right, right. I said to someone that one of the things I really liked about this film was that it's really important to me that we see films about the South that aren't always that aren't always about black and white.
Yeah. Right.
And that there are resentments and complications and wrinkles between white Southerners that you want to see explored in some ways.
Yes, you do.
And this was a film that did that, and I like that. I like it so much because of that. I think that's a really interesting and vital part of what's special about this film.
And in a strange way, I mean, a person can let his mind roll, because you just mentioned, the obvious racial themes that are usually struck when you do a movie about the South. The plight of the poor white guy. Who's he going to dump on?
Right. Oh, it's always been that. It's implied.
Yeah.
But,
but so now that doesn't enter into it. But when you see this man who's never going to be able to make it, trying in his imperfect way, trying to get something going, you realize the hopelessness of a lot of people down there, and how when you get hopeless, you start looking for an enemy. The character I played was a tough old man who could be damn mean because he was not going to quit. He wasn't going to quit.
It's a complicated character.
Yeah, and I married a lady, Dixie Carter, from a small town in West Tennessee, only about 40 miles maybe from where this place was. Huh. And I've been part of that family for about 30 years now, and I regard myself as an adopted Tennessean. But I don't agree with a lot of things that some people, the way they think down there. My father-in-law, I've talked about in all the interviews, Dixie's father. He lived with us for 20 years after my mother-in-law died. My mother-in-law was a wonderful woman, a real wonderful lady. Great lady, great inspiration. I have her in my system, warning me every once in a while when I don't do right. I can hear Jenna, and Mr. Carter, he lived with us for 20 years after Jenna died, and he was the head of the house, really, always, because that's who he should be.
Right.
And he was a very proud man, a very kind man, but he had a very strict, by my standards, set of values and morals. And politically, we couldn't really talk to each other very much, because that's who he was. I respect that. So there were subjects we couldn't talk about, really, because you didn't start arguing with Clark. You don't want to argue. Right. He was real good with a knife, I was told, when he was younger. I was warned, you know. No, and he always had a pistol in the drawer by his side, you know. But he was a gentleman. And I developed this wonderful respect for him that has gotten into my gut and lived with me. And since he passed away, a couple of years, 2 years ago, I find he's in me more than I ever dreamed he would be.
Interesting.
Because I'm trying to carry on.
That's very loving. It would actually make me a little, I would enjoy it. You would be like, cut.
I'm trying to carry on. You know, the responsibility that he took on.
Sure.
And so, I mean, the gut of this character, the refusal to give up, the sense of right and wrong as he sees it, the sense of what's right and proper and what's moral and isn't, the desecration of this farm that he and his wife built, and the home, to see beer bottles all over the place, and cans, but to a man in a small town like that, who lives by a code, it means a lot.
Absolutely. You really get that. That really comes across in this film. I love that. Now, have you worked with Dixie Carter before?
We haven't done a film together, you know, a feature. And,
it's lovely to have you. You know, to be honest, it's really lovely to have you in the film together. I find it has this sort of extra sort of movingness.
Oh, it was just wonderful to work with Dixie, and you know, you don't even have to act. She said, you know, I said, would you play this little part, Dixie? It's so right for you, and they want you to do it. She said, of course I will, if you want me to. But we didn't have to, we didn't rehearse or nothing. They turned the camera on, you know. We just behaved the way we do. And somebody made an interesting comment at one. He said, how do you put together the fact that this man was so mean to his son and everybody else, basically, and yet you see him and his wife, you know, him being so sweet with his wife. How do you do? And I find myself saying, that's what love is all about. Love is not because you're nice all the time.
No.
You don't love a person.
Oh my gosh, no.
You don't love a person because they're always acting the way you want them to. They have characteristics like impatience or whatever that you learn to live with and take into account and whatever. And once in a while you get upset, and the rest of the time you let it go. So that's what love is.